Hi, Jaya.
Hi.
So, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, maybe where you live, how old you are, and I guess what you're currently doing in lockdown?
Okay, so I am 25. I always forget that. I'm 25. I'm from London. I'm currently working for a digital company, but I've been put on furlough. So I've just been doing like other things, like for example, like my food blog, trying to keep busy, reading, just trying to perfect skills in other like places as well. So like for example, like brushing up on like my photography and editing skills, but that's currently what I've been up to.
Okay, so you mentioned your food blog. So, what's that called?
It's Sonyan's Cuisine. I started it about a year ago,
Hmm.
and there was a lot of like and ahhing, and I know like I was like to you, I was like I don't know what to do. I don't know if it's gonna be like good or anything like that. And I remember you just saying like, well, if you don't start it, how are you gonna know? So it's been okay. It's been really good. I've had loads of fun doing it. I finally decided to like do everything last year, and I was literally just like, okay, I'm just gonna do it. Whatever happens, happens, and just go from there. So I've been like sharing recipes and pictures and stuff like that. So that's allowed me like kind of work on my skills and improve a little bit more, which is really cool considering like I didn't really do any photography work since I left uni. And I think during the lockdown, a lot of things got put in perspective for me in the sense of like working and not actually focusing on what I want to do, or like being in a job that's not really, for example, like going into an office every day. I don't really think is me, but obviously money is there, bills need to be paid, I have responsibilities. So I guess some of my hobbies and like interests kind of took a back seat. So I think during lockdown, not being able to go out, like you have to find other things to occupy your mind, and um why not focus on something that is something that I like. So yeah.
So, um, what is it that you did at uni? Because obviously I know, but these guys don't know.
So I studied photography and video with Cali. Um, I always say this to Cali, like I'm absolutely like happy that I met Cali and like our friends at uni. I think like it was just like a really great experience because I left from my old university because I wasn't happy there. I wasn't happy with the course and everything else. And when I went to DMU, I just felt like the course was more challenging and more fulfilling than at the previous uni I was at. So I got a chance to study photography and video, and I think in my third year, I took a real interest into culture and food and how that impacted growing up as Black British. So I think that's where my interest in like food photography came from. So yeah, it kind of linked in quite well.
Yeah. Do you think you're gonna kind of take it? Would you like it to become a source of income at some point, or a career path for you? This
My
kind of
food blog.
yeah, or just like food photography and that kind of stuff. Do you think that could be an avenue for you in the future? Do you think?
I think that it's not something I should shy away from. I do want it to become like a source of income. That would be absolutely amazing if it did become a source of income, because then I wouldn't feel like it's an obligation. Like it's something that I really enjoy doing. Like I could spend hours on it, like literally hours. Um, so I don't want to say, oh, like I don't want to put it off, because I tend to do that sometimes. I tend to be like, oh, but I'm not sure if it will be like feasible, or if it can really work out as a job. Like there's other things that I didn't think would work out, and they ended up working out. So I just generally feel like if I work towards it and I really put all my effort into it, then yes, I can make it like a source of income,
Mm.
and like other things can develop from that, like maybe opening a cafe or like having classes or anything like that. So yeah.
Yeah, that's good because you said before about obviously being on lockdown, it's kind of made you really focus on what you really like to do and
Mm,
perhaps being in a job that's not quite doing it for you. So
fulfilling, yeah.
before you were a furloughed. How was that for you, working from home and kind of being on the setup?
I think working from home, I don't want to sound like ungrateful, because there is a great privilege for like being able to work from home. That there was other people that like lost their jobs. Sorry, there was other people. Let me just fix this. Sorry. There was other people that like lost their jobs, lost their sources of income. So I felt like I was very privileged in the beginning to be able to work from home. But then after that, like I kind of came to like a brick wall where I was literally just like, okay, my living space has now become my work environment, and like it's very hard to differentiate between when work starts and when my time starts, because again, like whether or not it was intentional, you would have colleagues that will like message you out of work hours or office hours and expect you to stay on longer or active online, considering that they'll be like, oh, but you're at home. Yes, I'm at home, but like I still require me time. That when I feel like at home allowed too many lines to blur with your work schedule and your home schedule. So at first it was good. I was able to stay safe and maintain my job and everything like that. But then it really started to irritate me that like certain things that I couldn't get away from. So for example, like going into the office, like when you leave, that's it. Like no one's going to really contact you because you haven't got your work computer or anything like that. But when you're working from home, it's kind of like the general consensus is, oh, she can log on at whatever time and action this request for me. And it's kind of like, well, that's kind of unfair. We all need to be considerate towards people's private time as well. So yeah, I feel like working from home it has its pros and cons. I guess one pro is that everybody can stay safe while maintaining business and functioning okay. But then there's a lot of cons where you're like, maybe your mental health as well might start to deteriorate because you're not able to differentiate between your work environment and home environment. At the beginning of lockdown, it wasn't really like essential for you to leave the house, so like you wouldn't really go anywhere. And like I'm okay, like I live like in a decent size flat, so like I could go downstairs or like sit on the balcony, like if I just wanted to relax. But other people don't have that luxury. So yeah, I guess working from home during this lockdown was a lot. So yeah.
So what do you think then about this idea of people say, like, if you love your job, you never work a day in your life, and it's just like this constant flow of work and
Happiness.
you're enjoying it. Yeah. So
I
what do you think if
true.
you're doing a job? What did you say?
I said I don't think that's true.
Oh, no?
But finish your question.
Oh, no, go on, because it will depend on how I ask the question then.
When people say that, I think they are, in life, people tend to sugarcoat things.
Okay, yeah.
Just because you like what you're doing doesn't mean that it's not going to feel like a job. Like, for example, I like baking a cake, I like developing recipes, but if I don't take the time to like actually think about what I'm doing and be conscious of what I'm doing, that's work. Don't downplay it as it's something that I love, so it never ever feels like work. Like you learning a skill for, let's say, 5+ years so you can action it in half an hour, that was work. Like you can't look at things through a rose tinted glasses like, oh, if you love something, like it will never feel like work. There's aspects that I don't like to doing a food blog, like the amount of times that I'm standing on my feet, maybe because like I have other health related problems and I'm literally just like, okay, I need a break, but I know that I want to get something done and I've set myself a deadline. Also, having a job and having a hobby that requires a lot of time is also a bit conflicting, because when you're at work, you're thinking about all the ideas that you possibly want to put out there. But then when you get home, all you want to do is relax. And that's not a bad thing to want to relax. It's not. But in the same breath, like if I don't want to put in the work in order for this to possibly become an outcome, a source of income, how it doesn't make sense. That is work in itself. So I don't know, there's aspects to it that don't feel like work, and then there's admin that feels like work.
Yeah.
Does that make a point?
Yeah, so it's kind of, it's only going to be not work if you don't have to do the worky-ish bits to it. Like if you
Yeah.
eliminate, or you didn't have, you gave the example of doing your food blog, and it's like, well, okay, this is kind of more, this is like physically strenuous on me. I want to take a break, but I've got a deadline. But I guess it's that, I think it's sometimes we get this idea of like self-employment and doing what we want to do. We still put ourselves in a box of like someone else's pace.
Yeah.
Like, well, actually, if this is what you do, let's just say you got paid for the making the food blogs and stuff.
Content, yeah.
You know, you can set how, when it comes out, you can set the tone of when you can take a break, when you can't take a break. You can set the pace of, you know, how you do it, where you do it, you know, all this kind of stuff. I feel like I do agree with what you're saying, that you can really just love your job, and it still is like, I'm looking forward to the end of the day because I'm tired and I want a break. But I think if we pushed ourselves to really make it what we want, then we can really expand it. So that idea of owning your time and owning how you want your job to look, like I found that I'm doing that a lot at the moment. I'm still just kind of putting my self-employment into a 9 to 5 corporate box of how it's supposed to be structured and how it's supposed to go, and actually it's totally up to me how I do it. And I think that's where you can feel more like it's less of a job if you're in controlling really how you want it to be. Like all the elements of a job that you don't like, you can kind of work towards making your job those qualities. There's none of those in it.
Yeah.
I think it's quite exciting. But yeah, I hear you that it's just not, it's not that straightforward. It doesn't always work like that. But that being said, I was going to say, like, the idea of a work-life balance is what I was going to say. Like, if you have a job that you genuinely enjoy, and it doesn't feel so strenuous on you at the end of the day, then do you think it would be easier to develop a work-life balance, or do you think there'd be such a hard line between the two of like work and life? Like, do you think work would just become more of your life and it just kind of trickles in and out and it just is more interwoven, whereas when you're in an office it's like, this is work time, this is my lifetime, and it's just these two separate things? But I wondered what you think about that.
Like if what do you mean, like if I took my hobby?
Yeah, if your hobby was able to become your work, and your income, do you think that you would need such a hard line between your work and your life and having that balance, because it's something you enjoy more, so it might not feel as like draining, or like it's, you know, it's more fluid as to when you do it and how you do it? So do you feel like there'd be such a dramatic like need for a work-life balance if you were
For
enjoying
certain
it?
aspects to the yes and no. I think some things, for example, like if this was my full-time job, and I don't think that I'd be so rigorous with certain things, like me creating like recipes or something like that. Like I wouldn't put a time limit on that. It will be more of like a free flowing thing. Like I'll feel at much more ease, and maybe like I'll become more creative in other aspects. But with I think to have that like sort of like free mentality across the board would be I don't know if it will be self-sabotage. Maybe for me, it will be self-sabotage because of the type of person that I am. Like I would need to employ discipline and structure so that I know that I can reach my targets. But I feel like I'll be able to be more free with my time. Like I wouldn't be I don't think I would have to define between these hours for myself. Maybe for other people, but for myself, I don't feel like I would have to define between these. So, for example, if my day started at 9, between 9 and 12, that's the early time that I write. I don't think I will set that, because sometimes, even when I'm just relaxing, I might get a thought and I'll be like, oh, let me just scribble this down quickly. Like, but if I put that limitation on myself, be like, no, this is my time, I'm not gonna work, then I kind of feel like I'm blocking certain like creative like flows and stuff like that. Whereas if it was, for example, I had a client and they asked me to do a product photo shoot, I would have to like follow a timetable, because eventually they'll provide me a deadline, and I can't be like, well, you know, the creativity wasn't flowing, so I couldn't meet the deadline. But I don't. It's a bit of it's a sticky one. Like, I can't really say yes and no. And but another thing that I was also thinking about is you would need to set the boundary for other people. And when I say that, for example, like friends or family members, for example, my dad is self-employed, and there's like this general consensus that because he works for himself, he has unlimited free time. So like, you can call him, and wherever he is, he should be able to help you. Whereas I don't think like that. Like, if he's working during the day, it's not for me to call him and be like, oh, can you come and do this for me? No, like, he's set his working hours. He's made sure that he's done a routine in order to like keep an income coming in. That's another thing. Like, there needs to be a structure that allows continuous income that comes in compared to a 9 to 5. If you're working here and there, like if your job requires some sort of consistency in order for you to support yourself, and you're just like spotty with like the workflow and stuff like that, you're not really being reliable to yourself and other people. So yes and no, that structure should exist, but again, like you said, it should be something that you should be able to create, and you know exactly what is good for you and when.
Easier said than done, isn't it?
I know.
So
it requires a lot of discipline.
Yeah, so in your current setup and, you know, having a job, I know you've just been furloughed recently, but prior to that, and I guess moving forwards, is there anything that you do to kind of, or do you feel a need to kind of escape reality, or just kind of switch off from work? Or are you quite able to just put it in a box? It's like, that was work, it's done. Or do you need to kind of...
No, I'm really bad. I'm really, really bad. Like, I'll be on the way home, like when we did take buses, I'll be on the way home and I'll be like, oh no, I could have done it this way. I could have executed like this. I could have done this user guide like this. Like, I really want to, even when I'm on holiday, like, I'll be like to them, like, I'll be like to my colleagues, oh, if you need anything, just message me. And that's really, really, really bad. Like, my colleagues are not in the habit of messaging me while I'm on like holiday or anything like that. They're quite respectful. But for me to say like, oh, message me, like, again, like I'm allowing that boundary to be crossed. Like, so sometimes I do find it hard to be like, no, it's done. But I don't know, it's just so difficult. Like, when you're engrossed in something and you've been doing it for a while, it's just so easy to get caught up in the idea of like a routine or something being done constantly. And I think that's a bad thing. I think that's what again, living in the city is just so fast paced. Like, sometimes you don't even get a breather until like you finally burn out and you're like, oh, I was exhausted maybe a couple months back, but I didn't pay attention. So yeah.
So what do you do to switch off when you do realize that you're still plugged into work?
I turn off my phone.
Okay.
I turn off my phone. So like, even if it's just airplane mode, I turn it off and I don't touch it. I've even turned off notifications to my phone, because I built the habit of anytime a notification came through, like I was there, I was jumping, like I was like, okay, it's important. When it's not really that important. Like if someone really needs me, they will message me or they will call me. Like if it's something urgent and you need me, then you will call me. If I can't help you, call emergency services, because at this point, like, there's nothing more that I can do. But when I want to completely like shut down and stuff like that, like even sometimes like just digitally, I'm very aware that I'm always engaged in a screen, and that's really, really unhealthy. So sometimes I just lay down and I just, even if it's just silence, I'm just there, just laying down. I'm not doing anything. Eyes open, eyes closed. Like I'm just laying still, because I just feel like it's important for me to just be aware of what I'm currently doing, because a lot of the time I'm just coasting when I'm working, and I won't remember to eat or anything like that. And I'm literally just like, I just need a minute. So sometimes I'll just sit there in silence, or before I go to bed, I'll turn off everything, TV, laptop, put my phone on silent, and I'll just lay there until I naturally fall asleep. That's one of the things that I make do when I just want a break. Another thing is reading. So that's something that kind of fell to the back when I was at uni. And then after uni, it was kind of a thing, oh, I need a job now. So it wasn't something that I was doing a lot. And during the lockdown, like I got a chance to like read all the books that I had accumulated over the years. So that's another thing, like to kind of like put myself in a story, which is kind of like nice. Like just be like, oh, I'm excited to see what happened next. Like, do you ever just like continue reading knowing that you should be going to bed, but you're so engrossed in the book? So I do that as well. And then if I really, really like just want to have like fun or something, I play the Xbox. I try not to be on it for hours, but it's the same as reading. I just get so engrossed, and I'm literally just like, I need to do this mission. Yeah. But yeah, those are a couple of things that I would do to like kind of clock out of office work.
Yeah. So what kind of books do you like to read, and what games do you play on the Xbox?
So I am all over the place. So it's stealth books, thrillers. I love like CIA books or something like that. I also like self-help books. So I was reading a book on emotional wellness. That's something that I've always felt like I needed work on, and other self-help books as well. Video games is quite like it's quite like violent. Mostly like Call of Duty and stuff like that, because I feel like there's strategy to it. So like I don't know what it is, but I just like that I don't know if it's rigidness or like, but I just like that. Yeah, like it's just, again, it allows my mind to like think through stuff before I do something. Like that's someplace else I can take my time in. Like I don't feel rushed to complete something. So right. Yeah.
I see. Very good, very good. So you said you spend a lot of time on screens, and you've been trying to come away from that. But when you are on a screen, what do you like to watch?
Okay, so I am huge in documentaries. Okay. I don't know why, but like sometimes I get drawn into the murder documentaries. I'm just like, okay, this is a bit sinister, but I love it.
Not make you paranoid.
Horror, yeah, because I'll be like, oh my days, like, what happened if so and so happens? And I start making scenarios in my head. I'm literally just like, just get it together. I like horror movies. There was a documentary that I watched that I really, really enjoyed. I think it was called Heat, Salt, Acid, and something else. It was a full. No, it's not a horror movie. It's about food. Once again, I was on Netflix, and it was about food. I probably should have said that. Okay. But it was just basically like the most important elements of when you're cooking, and that again taught me something. And I'm literally just like, I didn't realize like how much like these things, or these like heat, acid, salt, and I can't remember the other one, but they were really important, all kind of fundamental to cooking, and like you can't get away, like even if it is with salt, like everything has salt in it, so it's kind of interesting to see somebody else's take on it. So I kind of like learning new things. Like I feel like Netflix has so much stuff going on, but then like sometimes there's nothing there. So I was very happy I came across that. I like watching what is it, like drama sort of TV shows. I can't remember what you call them. I don't know, like to kind of see like a story being played out is really good. I'm still watching The Handmaid's Tale, and I'm pacing myself now because it is a bit heavy, so like I have to take my time. But yeah, like there's a couple of things that I like watching, or how-tos on YouTube. So YouTube is like a huge rabbit hole, and like you click on one video and like it just keeps on going. So like a lot of the time, like I'll find myself like watching like equipment reviews for like cameras and stuff like that, or like how to do something like software, color grading, or cooking channels. So I'll be back there as well, like cooking channels and stuff. So yeah.
You watch all sorts of stuff. That's a good mix.
I really.
Yeah.
You really what? Oh my days. You know what I really, really love? It's like those silent cookie shows. Like that's the journey that's on with my my channel. But like I just like cooking, and I love watching other people cook because it's just so, I know what it is, it's just so relaxing, the sounds, like not hearing anybody talk. It's just like
you like just the sounds of the cooking and seeing the person do it. So you don't like the whole, now we're going to mix in the butter and now we're going to do this and dice up like this.
I don't mind that, but I do prefer just the silence. I don't know what it is. The silence is just, it's comforting, which sounds weird because like you fully hear like all the sounds in the kitchen, and sometimes I don't have that luxury because I live in between a fire station, a hospital, and a police station. Plus I'm in London. Then there's like a overground, like, and I always hear the first train pulling. So like I'm literally just like, there's just noise constantly. So like to just watch something and it's just silent in the environment is really, really nice. But I don't want to move to the countryside or anything.
You just need a soundproof room, soundproof kitchen.
Yes, that's what I need. But then I'm also kind of scared of this because what if something happens and nobody hears you call for help?
Oh. I suppose, yeah, that's true. I hadn't thought about that. Yes, you could have some kind of emergency button or something. If you've got the money to make a soundproof kitchen, you've probably got money to have a security button in there as well.
True.
Something to call for help. That's true. Anything could happen in the kitchen as well. It's not.
Especially with me, like sometimes I'm accident prone basically, so I have to be very careful sometimes. I'm literally just like, you need to think about what you're doing next. Like you can't just rush into something. Yeah.
So I wanted to ask you, I wanted you to imagine that there's been a Netflix original made that's all about you, basically.
Okay.
So if you had that show, what genre would you want it to be, or what do you think it would be?
I think we already know where I'm going with this. I think it would kind of be like lifestyle, sort of like documentary.
Okay.
Because I kind of like that. I kind of like cultural, like looking into culture, like where I am, where like my background, like where my parents are from. Like that's something like I'm still kind of like really interested in. Like I'm still learning about the culture that my parents grew up in. I'm still learning languages that like I feel hard done by that I didn't get taught. So like I'm kind of like I want to learn it now. But yeah, like I feel like if I had a Netflix documentary, it would be about life. It would be about culture. I feel like those two things will be the main focus, and like just a journey, I think.
So like,
I want to buy it now for Netflix.
so like it'd be a documentary of your life, your journey, and kind of your can't talk. Your exploration of culture.
Yeah.
So you mentioned right at the beginning, you mentioned about your project at uni when you were looking at kind of Black British culture and food cultures and stuff. So is that something that you find quite challenging then, that idea of being Black British?
I used to. So sometimes I still struggle with it. Have you ever heard of like imposter syndrome? So like, for example, when we're at family events, so my mum and dad are from two different tribes from Sierra Leone. My mum's Creole and my dad is Mende. And sometimes I'm just like, when my dad's family, like when we're around my dad's family and I hear them speaking like their tribal language, like I feel like so hard done by, because I'm literally just like, I want to be able to talk to you guys in Mende. I want to be able to tell the jokes and stuff like that. I just want to be in with the gossip. Like that's not the grand scheme of things, but I just want to be able to have a conversation like how I do in English. So like sometimes I really struggle with that. But then I'll be in the UK and someone will ask me, where are you from? I absolutely hate that question. For many reasons, but for one particular reason, as what do you mean? Do you mean area? Do you mean where my parents are from? Do you mean like where I was born? Because I could have been born, like for example, in Belgium, moved over here. Now you're asking me where I'm from. I've got like, what do you want to know? Like my parents, me, area, where I currently live. So I think sometimes being Black British is kind of like a double-edged sword, because sometimes you feel like you don't belong. Sometimes you feel so immersed in the culture, but then it's literally just like there's problems within the culture as well that you don't really want to like identify with, because you're literally just like, I don't agree with that. So yeah, I feel like it's something that I'll forever struggle with, but it's not as much of a struggle as it was like when I was younger. I think because I'm able to maybe stick up for myself more now, or have more insight into the culture. Like I can ask my dad or my mum like more questions, like if I'm confused about something. Like whereas growing up I didn't know how to like phrase certain questions, so like there was always that sense of like limbo. But now like I don't mind like asking like outright, like what does that even mean? Like why do you guys still adhere to these traditions? Like what is the benefit of you still keeping these type of things? So I think I think I'll forever have that back and forth with being Black British, because again, like if I was to go to Solo and they're like, where are you from? Or if I was to go to America and they're like, where are you from? I was like, oh, I'm from the UK, but my parents are Solonian. So how does that work out?
So do you feel like it's a big factor in your own identity, or do you think it's something that, as it's not something that's kind of, you don't like struggle with it as much? Do you feel like that's because you've got a better grasp on it, or because it's become less of a big pillar in your identity?
That's a really, really good question. I think, Callie. I think I may have a better grasp on it, and then also that certain things don't identify me. So for example, not being able to speak Mende doesn't make me less Black, or less like, doesn't make me have less of a fraction of my parents'
Mm.
culture or heritage. Like they gave me what they felt like was appropriate, what they could feed to me at the time.
Yeah.
But then again, like it is my identity. Like
Mm.
when someone asks, is like, oh, do you know so and so? They might be like, oh, the one that's from Sierra Leone, or the black girl. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just so confusing sometimes to like just give a definitive answer, because you're literally just like, do you ever just have the moment it's like, I just don't know. Like sometimes, some days it does feel like it's all me, and sometimes I'm literally just like, oh no.
Not
Like I
doing
know
that.
that's not a great answer, but I'm
Mm.
constantly like in battle with that. Like, is it me? Is it not me? Do I want it to be a part of me? Like
Yeah.
sometimes I just want someone to just be like, for example, like if I do something or if I say something, I don't want to be like, oh yeah, it's because she's from South London. No, it's because like, what you did was like kind of like cheeky, and
Yeah.
like,
Mm.
or like, you got to be careful because you can't say certain things. I'm just like, no, that's not the case, but by all means go through.
So, do you feel like, what was I going to say there? A follow-up question, but it's like, oh, do you think that with identity, do you think it's more about the facts? Like, your parents are from here, so that means you are this, and you are raised here, so that means you are this, and do you think it's more, or do you feel like it's more kind of up to you to determine what your identity is? Do you think identity is something we are just given and it's like assigned to us by facts and DNA and history? Or do you think identity is something that you kind of forge for yourself? What do you think?
It depends. I know
Mm.
you hate that, but not that you hate
No,
that, but like,
okay, go on, yeah.
um it depends where you are, really.
Okay.
Someone might identify you as, I'm just going to use this example. If I'm in the States
Mm-hmm.
and someone sees me, they will identify me as a African American. I'm not
Yeah.
African American, but because you haven't heard me speak, you haven't had a conversation with me, you
Mm-hmm.
don't know my background, the assumption is that I'm African American because I've got black skin.
Yeah.
Then again, someone might tell me, like if I was to turn around and be like, no, I'm just British, someone would be like, well, no, you're not, because obviously someone
Not
came
from
from
here.
somewhere
Yeah.
and you ended up here. This is how you got here.
Mm.
So again, it's about like perspective. Like, yes, like you can forge your own identity through certain things.
Mm.
For like example, like sexuality, like how you dress and stuff like that. Like that's
Yeah.
for you to gain an understanding of, and say what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas there's other things like basics, like skin color, how you look, like your name, for example. Like I feel like if I had a different name, it would be so weird. Like if I was to wake up the next day and change my name to like Beatrice or something, like it would. I don't feel like I would suit a Beatrice. I feel like my name has allowed my identity to become who it is. Like,
Mm.
so it is what you make it, but then again, it is what's assigned to you.
Mm.
Like we are products of our environment, and your environment helps shape your identity and who you
Yeah.
become.
Mm.
So I don't know if I've answered that question. Like,
Well, no, we explored it. That's the main thing. It's not that every question has to have a definitive answer. It's just
yeah, okay, yeah.
exploring the thought. It's fine. It just everyone comes to their own conclusions, and sometimes they don't come to
Mm,
a conclusion, and that's fine. It's not doesn't have to have a conclusion like that. I was just curious
yeah.
what you thought about that, because it is. it is hard if people are telling you you are one thing and then you don't feel that way. Then that's quite difficult to kind of navigate.
It's like when somebody asks me where you from, and I say, oh, like Sierra Leone, and they're like, oh, what's your tribe? And I'm like, oh, my mom's Queer, my dad's Mende. And then they like might say like a greeting in Mende, and I'm like, no. And then they're like, I'm like, no, I can speak Creole, but the Mende, and I'm like, no thanks. And they're like, well, you're not a real Sierra Leonean. That winds me up. That grinds my gears, because I'm literally just like, how many people are out there that are not from that tribe, that don't speak Mende? Are you gonna turn around and tell them, well, you know, you're not really Sierra Leonean, are you? And I'm literally just like,
yeah,
that's one thing.
There's a tick list of things that allow you to identify yourself as that officially, to be like, well, you have to be able to do this, and you have to be able to do that, and you have to speak this, and you have to know that, and you have to look like that to then be categorized as that thing, or you call yourself that. I guess is the more important thing, is what you're allowed to call yourself, what's accepted as your identity and what's not. It's huge, really, and it comes in all shapes and sizes, whether it's the countries you're from, or the gender you identify as, or your sexuality, or anything. It comes up in so many different ways for us, that idea of identity. I think it's really complex, and I think our society is kind of really blurring the lines of it as well. Like, it's even less black and white than it used to be. It's just even more of a free-for-all. Like, it's really up in the air. Like, the jury's out on that. On what identity means, how identity is defined. It's huge.
Yeah,
it's a big one.
It's just, it's so much of a, it's too broad to be like, this is what it is and that's the end of it. Like, it's just like how somebody can't come and tell me, well, how can you be, like, for example, like, how can you be both from the UK and from Sierra Leone? Like, you can't, that's not for you to go and tell somebody, like, whether or not. So yeah, like you said, the jury's out on that one.
Results are pending. We shall see. So, what would you want your documentary to be called?
Ooh. Hallie! I'm so bad with names, and you know this.
Would you want it to be just like it's a title to do with you, or would you want it to be more of an ambiguous name that's like, oh, what's that documentary about?
I think I want it to be more of an ambiguous name, just because, like, if I had my face and like other aspects that were related to what the documentary was about, and then like had like not so ambiguous that you didn't know what it meant, but enough to like intrigue you, then yeah. But if I had to be basic, I don't know, maybe the journey of a Black British girl, like, I don't know, or like just my name, I don't know, or from like if I was to be like from London to Sierra Leone, or like another destination.
I think it is a really big topic, that idea of being Black British, and something a lot of people struggle with or explore a lot, and they're not quite sure where they
Lie
in with it. Do you feel like with your food blog, do you feel like you're able to kind of explore that in there, or do you feel like it's just solely about the food, or do you see it kind of having more of a message behind it underneath it at all?
Really good question. I love that. I think it has the potential to maybe have like a vlog series where I explore the food that like influenced me, that I ate a lot like growing up, because that's another thing that was like so confusing. Like when I went to school and people are like, oh, what did you have for dinner? I'd be like, oh, I had rice and soup. And they'll be like, rice and soup? And they'll be like, you ate rice and soup? And I'll be like, yeah, like, what's wrong with that? Yeah. Whereas, like, if I said it to, like, my Ghanaian friends or, like, my Nigerian friends, they'll be like, oh, yeah. But, like, if I said it to somebody that wasn't from, like, West Africa, they'll be like, rice and soup? Like, what do you mean, like, rice and soup? Do you mean, like, a stew? And I'm like, no, rice and soup. So...
It's like, you have bread with soup. It's not rice. Yeah, it's like...
But,
different types of soup.
I feel like that is something that I would like to one day show, because I feel like that's very important. Like I feel like there is a huge community behind food, and if you eat the same as other people, like for example, like there's a huge memory of like getting chicken and chips after school. Like that is like a it might seem small, but that is like a huge like part of people's childhood, like growing up, like let's say British bangers and mash. I used to love, and my mum used to make that. So like I always used to get confused, like when my dad used to be like, oh, that's not dinner, and I'm like, okay, so what is it? He'll be like, rice and soup is dinner, and he'll be like, chips is a snack, and I'm just like, I don't know, like I like both. So
yeah, because tell us a little bit about your project that you did at uni, where you were kind of exploring the two cultures and food. Tell us a little bit about that.
So when I did my project at uni, at first like I didn't really know where I wanted it to go, but as I like started to like explore a little bit more, I was very interested, should I say, about like how my parents viewed like British food, and how my brother and I viewed like certain dishes. For example, like my dad like he would be like, oh, that's not dinner, like that's something like you just get a snack, or like he'll be like, eat something proper, like getting chicken and chips wasn't like dinner. Like that wasn't something that my mum would be like, oh, for dinner we're gonna have chicken and chips. Like it would be like we have soup and rice. And I think the contrast between the two was very interesting, because when you were growing up, during lunchtime, like you would have like sausages and chips, or like mashed potato and like a protein. But it was very interesting to look at how food was, I don't know how to say it, but like different households, and how food was really like brought together, processed, or like experience basically. So like I had one picture where I had a dish from Sierra Leone. It's like all over West Africa actually, and it was cassava leaf, but then I also love chips and ketchup. But if you asked me to pick which one like I wouldn't mind eating for the rest of my life, it will kind of be like, oh, I really don't know. Like I love them both, and they just hit the spot differently. Like each one does something different. So I put those two together because rice and soup is something that my dad would consider like a good dinner. Like that was something that would hold you. That's something that you eat as a, like you sit down at the table and eat. Whereas I'll be like, chips could really, really, really satisfy me at this moment. And I put them two together to kind of show my my project was to kind of show a contrast that happens between two different cultures that I am in, but I like both. Like there's not something that I would like I don't like it when people ask me to choose certain things. So I feel like that was what I was showing in my project, that you can experience multiple things through food. Like you can experience family and culture and other experiences through traditional food, whereas you can also identify and like have memories with a cuisine that's not necessarily like your traditional or home cuisine. So I think I liked showing the contrast between the both, but then also looking at staple foods from Sierra Leone, like the yam, palm oil. Like that's something that we continuously cook with. It's not 100% healthy, but we're still eating it. It tastes amazing, but like to kind of show like food has different meanings and experiences for other people and in different cultures. I think that's one thing that my project was trying to show. In hindsight, there's a lot of things that I missed during developing and researching that whole food element in culture.
Do you think you picked that back up, that project? Or do you feel like it's kind of served its purpose and now you've moved on to something a little bit different?
If I was to pick it up, maybe it would just be about the food, not so much of it, like, because when I did the project, it was quite big, and I don't like I don't feel like I allowed concentration on one thing, and I feel like that would have, like, if I had just focused on the food, the culture, the experience of food in the culture, I feel like it would have been a very in-depth and fruitful project. So I wouldn't say no to picking it back up, but I feel like I'll be more decisive on what I want to explore with being Black British and like with food as well. Yeah. I just love food.
I was imagining like you doing the food vlogs, but doing it preparing food of the two different cultures, so you could have them, because you said about having the pictures next to each other, but having the videos next to each other could be like having different things in the oil or different things being chopped up. Like that could look quite cool. It's just like a further development of the concept that could look really cool, because you've obviously gone more moving image and video rather than stills at the moment with your food stuff. But that could look really cool. I can see it. It would look cool, but obviously see where it goes. But it sounds really, really cool. Oh gosh, yeah. It's just so many different things that come out of this time. But what would you say? Just wrapping up now. What would you say? No, I want to ask you something else. Change my mind. Has cooking taught you anything about life? Have you learned any life lessons from cooking?
I love that question. Yes, it really has. I am a very, very, it's really bad, I'm working on it, very impatient person. When it comes to certain things, like I just want things to be done like quickly and stuff like that. And with food, if you rush that, you're not gonna get a nice outcome. Like preparing food allows you to take your time. It's not something that should be just, you just throw it and you just eat. Like with preparing food, I've become more mindful and more patient with certain processes. Like I'm not in a rush to do something anymore. Like, and I feel like that's trickled down or through into other aspects of my life. Like I'm not like if someone can't do something, I'm not like, oh, I just want it done so and so. I allow more times for things or experiences to flourish. I don't know, like food's just taught me a lot with like taking your time with doing something. Like when you take your time with with anything, if you can, the outcome is more beneficial, it's more fruitful, it's more fulfilling. And it's kind of like with food, I get to like kind of experience that with sharing like joy, with like eating and stuff like that. Food, like just preparing food in general has taught me a lot about patience. Like being impatient in certain things doesn't help at all. Like you just end up rushing things don't come out the way you want to, and then can you imagine the audacity to be upset because you rushed something? But if you're just taking your time, like maybe if you just slow down like 5 minutes to half an hour, you could have seen the process and you could have allowed more time to adjust certain things. So yeah, like I feel like that's one thing that preparing food has taught me. And just because you make a mistake doesn't mean that you can't do it again. Like just try. Like, you know how many times I've cried because the recipe hasn't worked out, and I'm literally just like, you know what, it didn't work out, what went wrong, like what was less, what was more, like come on. It's allowed me to like research a lot more, like read, learn more things. Like it's just preparing food has allowed me like to learn more things with like editing software. And when I'm talking to people, like what do you like, what don't you like I have people that don't have the same diet as me, so in my head I'm literally just like, I don't want you to feel left out, like if we have family events. So me also learning like new techniques to like prepare food or like different cuisines has helped me broaden my like my education of like food and how certain elements work within food and like taste and stuff like that. So yeah.
Interesting. I just want to say thank you for coming on and joining me for tea today.
No worries.
Really nice to explore these different things with you. I'm looking forward to seeing what's next for you. Is there anything else you wanted to add before we say goodbye?
Stay safe. You know, like Bro says, stay alert. Don't really know what that means, but no, all jokes aside, like I really did enjoy this conversation. Yeah. I don't know, like you've given me a few ideas and I really, really like it. So thank you.
You're welcome. So have you got any handles that people should, if they're interested in what you're doing at the moment, where can they find you?
So on Instagram, my food blog is Sonyan's Cuisine. I also have a website where I'm posting all my recipes, www.sonyanscuisine.co.uk. And I'm also on Twitter with the same handle as my Instagram, so Sonyan's Cuisine. So hopefully just come and send me questions and stuff like that.
Yeah, that would be really cool.
Maybe soon I'll be able to do a live class and teach you guys how to make some stuff.
That'd be cool. That'd be really cool. Well, there's no stopping you. You've got all the technology now to
I know. A Zoom class.
Oh yeah, that's a good idea. You could do Insta lives, you can Zoom class. The world is your oyster, Jaya. Possibilities are endless, even on lockdown. Well, I'll say goodbye then, and then yeah, see you again next time.
All right, bye.